Before recorded history began, before kings ruled cities, before humanity understood its place in the world, ancient texts describe a time when the boundary between heaven and earth was broken. Not by humans, but by angels. These beings were not sent as messengers. They were not guardians. They were not meant to descend. They were called the Watchers. And according to ancient writings, their descent changed the fate of humanity forever. This is the story of the fallen angels, and of the beings born from their forbidden union, the Nephilim. The Watchers. The earliest and most detailed account of the Watchers comes from the Book of Enoch. A text excluded from most modern Bibles, yet preserved for thousands of years in ancient Ethiopian tradition. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers as a group of angels assigned to observe humanity. Their task was simple: to watch, to guide indirectly, never to interfere. But something went wrong. 200 Watchers descended to earth. Not by command, but by choice. They gathered on Mount Hermon, a mountain whose name means, the place of oath. There, they swore a pact. They would take human women. They would share forbidden knowledge. And they would accept the consequences together. This was not temptation, it was rebellion. The text names their leaders: Semjaza, Azazel, others whose names echo through forbidden scriptures. They were not monsters. They were intelligent, strategic, and fully aware of what they were doing. Forbidden knowledge. Once on earth, the Watchers did not simply live among humans. They taught them. Azazel taught humanity how to forge weapons, how to shape metal into swords, knives, and armor. Others taught astronomy, the movement of stars, the measurement of time. Some taught cosmetics and adornment, how to alter appearance, how to deceive through beauty. Others taught enchantments, spells, the manipulation of forces unseen. According to the text, this knowledge was not meant for humanity. It accelerated civilization unnaturally. It introduced warfare. It introduced hierarchy. It introduced domination. The world changed rapidly. And then, something even more catastrophic happened. A world corrupted. According to ancient scripture, the earth itself became corrupted. Not only morally, but physically. Blood covered the land. Creatures were altered. Boundaries between species were broken. This detail is important. The text implies that corruption was genetic, not symbolic. Humanity was no longer purely human. Creation itself was unraveling, and this did not go unnoticed. The judgment of the Watchers. The cries of humanity reached heaven. According to Enoch, God commanded the archangels to intervene. Raphael was sent to bind Azazel. He was cast into darkness, buried beneath stone, and condemned to remain there until the final judgment. Gabriel was sent to incite war among the Nephilim. They destroyed one another. Michael confronted the remaining Watchers. They begged for forgiveness. It was denied. They were bound beneath the earth, imprisoned in darkness, forced to watch the destruction of their offspring. Their punishment was eternal awareness. The Great Flood. The flood was not sent to destroy humanity. It was sent to cleanse the world of corruption. This is a crucial distinction. The text implies that humanity was collateral damage. The true target was the hybrid bloodline, the Nephilim. Their physical bodies were destroyed. But the story does not end there. What happened to the Nephilim? According to Enoch, when the bodies of the Nephilim died, their spirits did not ascend. They were not angels. They were not human. They became something else. Wandering spirits. Disembodied intelligences. Restless entities bound to the earth. The text says these spirits would become a source of affliction for humanity. This detail later traditions would call by another name. Demons. Not fallen angels, but the spirits of the Nephilim themselves. Giants after the flood. Strangely, giant beings appear again after the flood. In the Hebrew Bible, names emerge. The Anakim, the Rephaim, Goliath. This raises an uncomfortable question. Did some Nephilim survive, or did the Watchers interfere again? Ancient cultures across the world speak of giants. Sumerian texts, Greek titans, Norse Jotnar, Mesoamerican legends. Different names, same description. Erased history. The Book of Enoch was widely read in ancient times. Fragments were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Early Christian writers quoted it freely. Then, it disappeared, declared heretical, removed from canon, labeled dangerous. Why? Perhaps because it reframed humanity's origin. Not as innocent, but as manipulated, not as alone, but as part of a much larger conflict. Myth or memory. Modern scholars dismiss the story as mythology. But mythology often preserves memory when history is erased. The Watchers may not have been angels as we imagine them today. They may have been something else. Advanced beings, non-human intelligences, visitors from a forgotten chapter of Earth's past. Or the story may be symbolic. A warning about forbidden knowledge. About unchecked power. About boundaries never meant to be crossed. But one thing is certain. Every ancient culture remembers a time before ours. A time when beings walked the earth who were not human. The forbidden question. If the Watchers were real, then humanity was never alone. If the Nephilim existed, then history has been carefully edited. And if the flood was a reset, then civilization today may be living on borrowed time. The question is not whether this story is comfortable. The question is whether it is true. Some knowledge was forbidden for a reason, and some stories survive because they refuse to be forgotten. The silence after the Watchers. Human history does not end with answers. It ends with silence. The Watchers vanish from the texts as suddenly as they appear. No final battle, no great punishment recorded in stone. Just absence. And absence is the most disturbing evidence of all. Because civilizations do not simply forget their gods. Something erased them. After the age of the Watchers, humanity changes. Kings rule instead of divine teachers. Knowledge fragments. Monumental architecture fades. Lifespans shrink. Myths replace records. It is as if a curtain was pulled over the world. Ancient cultures describe this moment in different words. The flood, the fire from heaven, the great silence, the fall, not as metaphor, as consequence. And here is the question modern archaeology avoids. What if the Watchers did not disappear, but withdrew? If they were observers, not rulers, then their role was never to stay forever. Only to guide, to alter, to prepare. Every myth agrees on one unsettling detail. They promised to return. The Book of Enoch calls it the Day of Reckoning. Mesopotamian texts call it the Second Descent. Mayan records describe the return of the Skylords. Norse myth speaks of Ragnarok, not as an end, but a reset. Different languages. Same warning. And today, something strange is happening. Human knowledge is accelerating again. Artificial intelligence evolves faster than biology. Genetic editing reshapes life itself. The skies are watched more closely than ever before. Governments admit objects exist that defy known physics. Ancient sites are re-excavated, reinterpreted, reclassified. And quietly, without announcement, old myths are being taken seriously again. Not as religion, as data. Maybe the Watchers were never gods. Never demons. Never angels. Maybe they were simply older. Older than us. Older than history. Older than memory. And maybe the greatest mistake is assuming we are alone in our past. Because if civilization was once guided, altered, or accelerated by something non-human, then humanity has never truly been independent. We were never the first. And we may not be the last. History is not a straight line. It is a loop. And every loop leaves scars. The stones remember. The myths remember. Our DNA remembers. The only question left is this. When the Watchers look back at humanity now, do they see a species that learned? Or a species that must be corrected again? Because the oldest warning was never about monsters in the sky. It was about knowledge given too early, to a species not ready to hold it. And somewhere beneath sand, ice, and forgotten cities, the Watchers are still watching.